All right, guys, welcome back to the Motion Raceworks YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest on the show. You may have seen it in some previous videos. You can see it right over my shoulder. It's not Dennis. It's a project that I'm really excited about, and Dennis is definitely really excited about, and that is the Motion Raceworks TVM Project COPO Camaro. So most people have not seen this awesome car. What year COPO is this, Andy? 2017. So at the end of last year, we decided, hey, we want to get more into sportsman racing. Dennis comes from sportsman racing. You got a super mod, is that what you call it?
Super stock modified and a stock Eliminator car.
And so he loves these 10,000. I don't know if this thing will spin 10,000, but he loves the stock, super stock stuff. It's heads up racing, really, with a little bit of index racing integrated into it.
Yep.
I think the whole channel is going to have to learn a little bit about this because they're mostly heads up. But
for sure,
Dennis is a veteran. Ever since I've met Dennis, he's had a whole variety of these types of cars. Not a COPO, though.
Nope.
So we decided as a team we were going to get this COPO, and we wanted to pick the best driver, so we picked Dennis. No pressure. And we're going to just dip our toes into this. We've always loved these COPO cars. They are a full integration of like Motion Raceworks, TBM, Rife, all that stuff. It's an EFI supercharged LS motor in a late model platform, and has the potential to race heads up at different events. So kind of let us engineer some new parts and just try to learn along the way, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a great time.
I mean, they've made these things since 2010. It's 2023 this year, so they've made, what is that? They made 69 a year, so you're talking about 13 years at 69 cars a year. So for us, it's a market, and we have some cool ideas on some stuff, and I think we can definitely put our own little twist on the COPO platform. And then who knows, maybe we'll go look into the Hellcats and Cobra Jets, but Chevy's our first start.
When we started looking at this, going through our catalog, I mean, we had just right off the bat like 20, 25 products that could go right on. So
yeah,
we're super excited and
yeah,
with more stuff as we go.
So before we even remotely dig into new products, we have like a couple days worth of just putting what we have on it, which we already know are awesome parts, you know, from valve covers to a catch can that's better than what's on there. Of course, the TBM, we have front and rear brakes now for these cars.
Shifter.
We've got a really cool operator shifter that, you know, we can mount some cup holders on. It's billet. That one's a stamped steel one. So yeah, we're going to dig in, but it's been hiding here in this back room, which used to be our shop. Actually, that's right where the Bald Regal was built, right there. But we're going to move it out into our main fab shop right next to the Nova and the OBS truck and get to work on it. All right, guys. So this car is a 350 supercharged. It's a what, 2.9 Whipple?
Yep.
2.9 Whipple. So that's how it comes. You know, they make 69 of these a year, and you can choose whether you want a 427. Different years have different blowers on them, but they have a 350 blower motor usually, and then a 396, I think. And then this year, I think they're doing a 572 and a 632 big block option. Basically, these cars are designed to race not only like factory stock. What letter this be? Factory stock.
The factory stock AA.
So these cars are designed to be used in factory stock AA, but they're also made to run against each other, like between the Cobra Jets and the Hellcats and all that stuff. So, you know, every year it seems like they're pushing the boundaries. Seems like from like GM to Mopar to Ford, they're trying to like inch each other out with different engine combos. They have a thing called the Factory Stock Showdown, and I think they came out with the Factory Stock X now. That's going to be a little bit more radical version of all this. This is in a stock form is the most clamped down in terms of rules. You cannot do a whole lot with the engine. You can't have a trans brake. We'll talk about some of those things and intricacies later. So this car came from Black Diamond Motorsports out in West Virginia. They bought it, and they're actually Mountain Motor Pro Stock racers. And when he bought it, he shipped it right to Jerry Haas, and they did a 750 cage because these only come with an 850 cage. He intended to go fast at some point with this thing. I think they've only put 6, 10, 15 runs or something on it, but they did some other upgrades on the suspension that are legal. I think you just like some bushings about all you can do. They put new wheelie bars on it. And then they had a full race pack V300 SD put in it with 802 box and all that stuff. So it's got some pretty trick stuff to it already, but nothing like Motion Raceworks, right? All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is get these plain Jane factory valve covers off this thing. These come with a really kind of a cheap and chintzy catch can. It's a non-baffled internal catch can, and I know a lot of people complain about it getting an oily filter. Of course, we already have a fix for that. The Motion Raceworks unit has internal baffling and will not get oil on the filter. So that's an upgrade, at least in our mind, that we can put on this thing right away and day one have not only a sexier engine compartment, but a better PCV, or at least breathing system on the vehicle. You'll notice we have a strap here. We actually pulled the transmission out to go through it, so it's out right now. And then we're gonna put a top secret converter in this thing, because if you can't use a trans brake, you need to have the converter maximized. These cars are designed, you know, they're designed to run pretty good, but they're also fairly generic. So if we want to come out at least be in the top half of the class, we're going to make all the changes we can within our ability. So we're going to put an electric water pump on this thing. It already has a cooler for the intercooler. You obviously put ice in these between rounds, but we have a cooler you can hook up that'll run cold water through the blower and cool the motor down between rounds. But we want to put an electric water pump on it so we can turn the fans and water pump on between rounds also. When you get into hot laps and in the middle of summer, you want to be able to run at a consistent temperature and a low temperature so you can run fast, because if you do have to run heads up, which Dennis will explain, it's nice to have that ability to have a cool, not only blower, but engine as well. So, right?
Want me to explain it now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so tell us about how this thing, so this is factory or stock Eliminator AA.
Yep.
But so the class is partially heads up and partially index. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so basically each class has a set of requirements for the year and the make of the car, and then the engine combination. And then they break it out by essentially weight breaks and horsepower is how you kind of fall into natural classes. And the race is qualified, so you have an index and everybody tries to see, you know, how far they can go under that index.
So stock Eliminator AA has an index. Is it like based off of like kind of what the class decides is something that a normal guy can run in it, or how does that work?
So the car has a factored horsepower from basically
GM,
the GM determines and NHRA determines that this car is factory rated at 580 horsepower, say. So like AA is I believe it's a 6 pound, 5.5 or 6 pound weight break. So essentially it's just a math equation. You multiply 5.5 or 6 pounds times the rated horsepower, and then you add 170 pounds for a driver.
Okay.
So, and there's also a factory
And
shipping weight.
so
for
that
the car.
determines like the weight of the
That
car.
determines like the natural class the natural class that the car's in.
Okay.
You also have to weigh within, I believe, 250 pounds of what the shipping weight of the vehicle was. So that makes it so somebody can't essentially take a natural A car and run it in D with 1,000 pounds of weight,
Gotcha.
essentially affixed to the chassis. So they have rules about how much ballast you can carry and how many classes you can move up and down from your natural class.
Essentially what they're trying to do in this class, correct me if I'm wrong, is create something that doesn't stifle innovation. So it's pushing people to have a faster, better technology, aka more horsepower, more efficient car, but also have rules so that somebody can't just run completely away with it, right?
Yeah, so they actually have a horsepower factoring system. It's an AHFS is what they call it. But as these cars get faster, to prevent the class from getting out of whack, so to speak, they will take that 580 horsepower that this one's rated at, and if people go too far under the index, which I believe it's 1.2 seconds, they begin to add horsepower to it, which means essentially adding weight. So this car started at 580 horsepower. People got really good at running them, and now I think the factored horsepower is like 617. So you can imagine 6 pounds times
30.
30 some horsepower. That's a lot of weight they've had to add just through innovation of the class.
Yeah, from the day it started till now. So this, in kind of like layman's terms, this is like X275 before X275. It's a similar concept,
little bit,
but then you have an index thing. So like if there's not another AA stock Eliminator car at your race, you essentially have to kind of just run your index racing. How does that work?
Yeah, so it is still it's a index race or bracket race, depending on what you want to call it. But the cool part is that at any given race, you know, if you run a very obscure combination of, you know, a 1974 Pontiac oddball, you may never have to race heads up. If you come to a race and somebody is also in the same class as you, it's first to the finish line. So kind of back to Doug's point, everybody's, you know, dropping their oil, putting 0.8 oil in, they're icing down the cooling system, they're icing down the blower if it's a blower car, they're, you know, heating up the temperature of the transmission, in some cases changing rear end gears, and they can pick up, say, 0.3 of a second in, you know, just one round.
Yeah, so if you're going to run Division 5, so some of the smaller races you might not run into a AA car,
Yep.
but you know that when you go into a big race, say if you make it to Indy or something like that, you're probably going to run another COPO or another AA stock eliminator. So at that point, you go from index bracket racing to this thing's got to go
Yep.
fast. But you got to play it smart, because if you run too fast, then they throw weight on your class or on your
100%.
combination. So it's a very much a chess game in my mind.
And they do have what's called class elimination. So like Indy every year has class. So every AA set of cars, every A, every B, every C, automatic stick, they all group together, and it's, you know, heads up first to the finish line, bring your A game. And every year there's, you know, in each of their respective classes within stock eliminator and also super stock, there's crowned a class champion, you know. And at Indy, to win class is like one of the most prestigious things for stock eliminator, super stock eliminator racers there is, you know. A lot of these guys dream of doing that for 30 years.
Because you're basically combining a car that's on top of the world with a driver that's also on top of the world.
Yep.
In a very strict, limited class like this. One of the things that we love the most about stock eliminator, super stock, if you've never been to a race, which you should go, because now that we're bringing this to your attention, there's a lot of them across the country, and there's different divisions and even like some private groups, but these cars look like real cars. They're real bodies. I mean, you'll see like a 305 third gen car running like 10s or something,
Yep.
right? And
Yep, for sure.
all different combinations. If you like Buicks, Fords, GMs, Mopars, whatever, like big Hemi wheel standing, like A stock, automatic, and stuff like that. There's literally a car for everybody, and they represent a real car. And what's really cool about stock eliminator, and correct me if I'm wrong about super stock, is they run on like a 28/9 tire.
For super stock, you're limited to a 9-inch wide tire.
Yep.
So everything is, you know, small tire. Obviously, this is the AA is the fastest class, so this is obviously the hardest combination to get down the track. But, you know, more risk, more reward in my mind. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Super stock turns into like back half cars. There's less engine restriction, so naturally the cars are going to be faster.
Sure.
You know, and you'll see cars like this in super stock. Some people run the 9-inch tire. Some people actually back half the cars and run, you know, some of these cars are running very low 8s, high 7s, you know, not even in factory stock.
Yep. And what I like about this class is that you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, K. I don't know. It goes all the way down. So like you can literally kind of race this class in a budget form, in the sense that like you don't have to run this car is going to run mid 8s probably, high to mid 8s, but they have classes all the way down to like 13s and 12s and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
we have a stock eliminator Camaro, a third gen. It's got a 305 in it, runs 1230s, 1240s in the quarter mile. And, you know, the structure of the race, if I get another L is what that car naturally is. If you get another L, it's first to the finish line, you know, 12-second blasts or high 11s. But I could also beat this car in a 12-second Camaro. So that, you know, that's the theory behind bracket racing and, you know, and having indexes, is trying to get every car that NHRA determined was an acceptable class in one class, racing at the same, you know, against the same set of requirements.
And they give you the ability to run from week to week without having a 20 car count in each like exact car class, which is cool. That's the cool part of the bracket racing, whether you like the index bracket or not. That's kind of the concept I think that they have behind that. And what's cool about your third gen is you guys just don't have to do a whole lot of maintenance to that thing. You could if you wanted to, but I know you have other cars at home, but you know.
In terms of like top of the food chain, it definitely isn't. I mean, with stock eliminator being so restrictive with engine, things that you can and can't do to the engines, there's only a select few companies out there that do those type of engines. We have an engine that is good and it's competitive, but it's not You know, it's not that top tier engine builder thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, if that's the car that you know, if that was a car when you were 16 and you always wanted to win Indy class, you know, it may be a 305 third gen, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So you can show up at divisionals, have fun, race, have a place to race, use your car, and slowly do what you want with it. Or you can be really competitive if you like get that itch. But I mean, I do like the concept. It gives people a lot to do with a huge variety of cars, which is, I mean, I'm all about that. So.
Yeah, it's like going to a race and there's, you know, 150 basically show cars there. It's like kind of like a car, similar to like the Radial Tire World. You know, it's kind of a car show and a race all put together.
Yeah, people very much like. Again, they look like factory cars, but people really take pride in it. We started sending Mike Pryka, our photographer, to some of the super stock races last year, working his magic with pictures, and like it shows. It's like a car show with like old muscle cars and some new stuff. You see everything from like a split window Corvette to a COPO Camaro, and you know, super stock cars that are chassis cars and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. All right, so like I talked about, we're gonna put our Motion Raceworks valve covers on it. For nothing else other than a little bit of bling. But what's really unique about these valve covers, the LS engines move a whole lot of PCV. It's just something they do. I don't know. I'm sure there's science behind it, and being this is a super stock channel, maybe somebody can fill us in a little bit more on that. But we have this really nice baffling system. We have been running these valve covers on, you know, streeter cars for a lot of years, boosted NA, and we've really worked out this baffling system that not only is it going to get the air out, but it's going to keep the oil out of the catch can. And if it doesn't, then we have our billet catch can, which we'll show you. These valve covers have mounts on the top for coils, and we have brackets for factory coils. Yeah, that's our catch can. We have brackets for factory coils as well as aftermarket coils, and we made them pretty easy to attach. You see they have 2 bolt holes here. So not only are they easy to adapt, but you can take them back off, and they use a factory gasket so they don't leak. And they're just a really nice piece. They look good. They're anodized. They're shiny, bright black, and they use ORB fittings, and then the oil fill is a 16 ORB. This is one of my favorite products. It keeps the oil out of the catch can, and anytime you can do that, you know, and also have a great looking valve cover, it's kind of a win-win. So the catch can we're going to run, a filter goes on top, is our top loader catch can. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, it has dual ORB fittings here. It is a baffled billet catch can with a drain on the bottom. One of the unique things is you can see this multi-hole pattern on the top. We have a bracket that uses 2 holes, so you can really clock it however you want in the engine bay. You can see that's the bracket. So you can either flip it that way or flip it around. And it's really simple to mount, but clocking it is huge in a tight engine bay, because then you can have the fittings route how you want. If it's like close to the valve cover, you can go away and do like 180s and stuff like that. This catch can has dual baffles in it, so the air comes in through here. It passes down a baffle, which then knocks the particulate out of the air, and then it has to come back around, and it's baffled to the breather. Why that is important is because the filter does not get oily. Unless this thing overflows out the top, you're not going to have an oily filter. You don't have to put your sweat band on it to keep the oil from dripping on the track and stuff. And that's important for safety and just for aesthetics of your engine bay. If you have if you're very particular like we are, this is a nice piece. And when used with our valve covers, makes a huge difference. I know one of the top complaints when we bought this COPO people had was that these catch cans fill up with oil. They get oil everywhere on the engine bay. They don't control the PCV, I guess you would call it, or the crankcase ventilation. So it's a frustrating thing when you have a nice car like this, and then you have a bunch of oily stuff. So right off the bat, this is a huge win for us, and it uses a part that we've had for probably 4 years already. So these parts are all made 100% here in this shop, and the machine shop on the other side, which is pretty neat. But the only thing we don't do in-house is anodizing. So another upgrade, we have the Motion Raceworks throttle cable, which I'll show you guys. One of the most frustrating things about these LS aftermarket throttle cables is how this frays, which ours will fray, but when you're using it on the throttle body end, once it frays once, it's nearly impossible to put it back on and then install it on the car. I'll show you, actually, yeah, perfect example. So this is the end on A lot of aftermarket ones, again, this isn't us bashing it, but we just tried to do things a little bit our way. You have to stick that frayed thing through this little hole and then set this set screw. We went back to a factory style fixed end here, and then on the other end is a clevis or a GM style connection, and then you just set the tension here so you can pull it all the way through, set it at 0, and then tighten it down. You never service the throttle pedal end, but you service the throttle body. It just makes life a lot easier. You really need friends to hold a light for you underneath 6th gen dash. That's what friends are for. So a couple of things that we're doing on this thing, we're running the Mazira electric pump. Love those Mazira pumps. They are rock solid. So that'll allow us to cool between rounds without running the car or any type of like external cooler. But also, it does have just like a free spin pulley, so you don't have to reroute the factory one, but it'll free up a few horse pressures. And then we're getting ready to switch out the alternator. These cars come with a pretty basic like factory style alternator with a bigger pulley, which we also make a similar bigger pulley. But we're going to run a 14-volt battery on this thing just so it spins the fans and the water pump and even fuel pump and everything a little bit faster, deeper cycle between rounds. So we need the excess volt Power Master, which turns it up to charge at like 16.8 or something like that. So what I'm trying to say is these power windows are going to go up and down real fast. There's just a lot of satisfaction going along. We got our Motion Raceworks throttle cable, which is all black, so that kind of blends. Andy, how does scale of 1 to 10? How's your back feel after being upside down in a 6th gen with a 750 cage?
A -3.
It's not your first time though. I think we did that in a Blue Mule.
I've been in the Blue Mule. I've been in the GTO. It happens.
But you know what? Now we have a dependable throttle cable.
Yeah.
That you can service on the engine end.
Yes, that is correct. It's all for the better good.
It's all for the good of the COPO.
That's right.
We gotta come up with a name on this unit.
Yeah. What do you name it?
Nothing.
Put it in the comments.
But like, I feel like everybody is naming. I mean, I'm gonna make fun of my boy Stevie Fast, but like, we can't name it like Scarlet or anything.
No.
Like, it's gotta. I need something. Like,
else.
I don't know. Maybe like something that just rhymes with a C, something the COPO, or we'll figure it out. Maybe you guys can throw some in the comments down below. So I have a video from when I was like 12 years old in the beginning of Motion. This thing actually has an expandable plug in the bottom, so it doesn't bypass the coolant when you plug the heater hoses off. We wanted to check it before. This one does not, so we're gonna take that out and put it in here. If you don't do that, your engine will start running hot and make you think that you need a thermostat for it to run cool, but that's not actually the case. You just want to make sure that it's not bypassing where the thermostat normally would be and going back into the system. So just the little details that I've failed enough to know what I got to do to make things not suck. So for those of you who pull the covers off a lot, we actually incorporated a factory style drip rail. It's hard to tell, but it's raised up here on the bottom. There you go. It's raised up here. That kind of makes sure not only having a factory seal, but that helps keep the oil in the head. It goes up and around the factory rail, so the oil really never gets a chance to go back out on the seal. Also, when you pull the valve covers off, it keeps the oil from just rushing out onto the floor, or at least it seems to. But it also helps locate it, so when you go to tighten it, the thing isn't moving around. It has like a solid place to land. That way it doesn't like squish the gasket out. It doesn't move past the sealing surface to where the gasket wouldn't seal on the flat machine surface. So just a small detail that I think is really cool that we incorporated into this. One of the other really cool things about this car is when it was at Jerry Haas Race Cars, they did some Pro Jack mounts on this thing. So jacking these cars up can be a little bit difficult, but not with Pro Jacks. So we have our billet valve covers installed with the coil packs. These coil pack mounts actually have sliders on top, so we actually were able to slide them out of the way to miss these hoses. I still think we're going to reroute these hoses, maybe up and over here and down this into some 90s, just so they're more out of the way in case we ever get to the point where we have adjustable rock arms and stuff. But for the meantime, everything clears. We just need to make some new lines over to the catch can And you can see this one's actually in progress. So if you were to relocate your coils, you could leave them like this. I think one of the things I'm going to do is redo these fuel lines. They seem to be a little awkward and kind of stretched out. I don't know if that's how it comes from the factory, but my plan would be to run 2 in, 2 out like we do on all of our fuel injected cars. That way everything gets equal distribution. So, but that might be work for another. All right, now that we got the valve covers all done, I guess it's time to decide where we want to put the catch can at. We kind of held off on making a mount because we wanted to see where it would be best. Like right there would be great. The only problem is it's hard to drain right there, and trying to get that fitting with a short line right there is a little bit difficult. So you can actually see like that fitting on the valve cover to here is a little bit tight. So I think we might actually at least consider putting it, up front or something where it's easy to drain, easy to get to, and then we can route the lines as such. But we're gonna take a minute to figure that out. But if you are one of the other COPO people, once we do figure out how we want to do it, we'll make a part, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think that I want to put it in the back there. It just seems like it's hard to get to. It's hard to drain.
Yeah, it definitely is hard to drain in that spot. Maybe we can do the spot.
We might even try to. Well, I guess all the blower stuff's there, but we'll definitely come up with a spot that's easy to access one way or another. Maybe it'll be on another video, but that's kind of the reason why we're digging into this. We know that we're not the only people who want something a little bit different. Maybe. In the meantime, we're gonna get this thing jacked up and start working on putting some new brakes on it. One of the things I noticed on this car when we got it was the brakes do not spin but half of a revolution when you jack the car up, even if it's been sitting for a while. So we wanted to put some TBM no drag brakes. That's worth some ET reaction time and everything else. I'll show you guys how that goes on. So that's kind of what I was talking about with the brakes just not being very free spinning, and nobody's even hit the pedal for a while on this thing, so they should not be dragging like that on a new vehicle. So we're going to put some TBMs on it. Should be lighter and better braking overall, and they should spin a lot freer. One of the really cool things about these COPOs is they have these alpha wheels. I don't know if they're actually called alphas or not, but they don't have a hub in the center, so they're like 3-4 pounds lighter than a lot of the wheels in the market. And then the fronts, I hate to say it, but they're actually lighter than my beloved Mickey Thompson wheels that I love so much, because they also don't have a hub. So it just removes all that rotating mass. I did a side-by-side comparison and it didn't match up. These were much lighter, so good job on this one, GM and COPO. These are some pretty... All right, guys, if you're new here, well, welcome. But if you aren't new here, or either way, I guess, we're going to put these TBM brakes on this car. TBM is a company that we bought about a little over a year and a half ago now. And it was an excellent brake option that we've been running on our own heads-up cars for years, heavy door cars that go fast. And we liked the product so much that we decided, hey, we'd like to, bring it in under our umbrella of product lines. So you may or may not have seen it. We were the originator of this rotor, this convoluted rotor design in the drag racing and car market. Basic principle of this, a lot of people think it is a lightweight rotor, but the pad swept area stays virtually the same as a fully round rotor. The concept here is that the convoluted design dissipates heat and evens the heat between the low and high surface. This reduces the potential for the rotor to be warped. On a heavy door car like this, we're not going to want to pull the parachute all the time. So that's a huge concern for this project. This is a 3/8 rear kit. We're actually going to do a dual bracket. One of the things about keeping the rotor flat is, number one, your pads last longer because they're not tapering or cupping. But then also, as the pistons come out, they hit the surface flat, so you get a better contact. The other benefit to our brake kit, the TBM brake kit, is we have this F3 caliper. It's a 4-piston caliper. It's got 4 1.75-inch pistons. So right off the bat, compared to the calipers we're taking off of it, it has a lot higher brake torque potential and will deliver a lot better stopping power because it has bigger pistons, which will help facilitate more clamping force on the rotor. This is proven time and time again as we've used these in the heads up world. We have quite a few people starting to run these brakes in the super stock world. And the one thing I will just say is, thanks to the rigidity of this caliper, not only the stopping power better, but when you let off the brakes, the way we've designed this caliper, the pads return off of the rotor so they don't drag. You get better pad life. It keeps the pads cooler, keeps the rotor cooler, and obviously the ET and reaction time abilities of a caliper that's not applying brake pressure with your foot off the pedal when you're trying to leave is a huge benefit. So that's just a little bit about TBM. If you haven't seen much, check out some of our other videos, and I think you'll really enjoy what these things have to offer. I only run a single caliper on this Nova over here, but this car weighed previously, before we did the rebuild, weighed about 3,400 pounds and trapped about 194 and a quarter. And we had probably 200 or 300 passes on a set of brakes, easily like 100 to 150 on one set of pads, plus about 4,000 miles. We use this for drag and drive. It's actually just the extreme challenge, I guess, on parts. So it just kind of shows the potential and the durability of this kit. Even though this rotor may look light, and it is light comparatively to a solid rotor, the longevity and stopping power it has to offer is really cool. Okay, so we got the old shifter out. We're gonna actually take the old parachute cable out too. We got our own, so we got to run our own. I don't know if there's really a performance advantage of ours over another, but we do have a nice billet handle. Kind of replace that unit there. Shifter is out, but I want to show you guys what we're putting back in. So Dennis and his team actually developed this shifter from scratch over the last year or so. A couple of years, right? Almost. Yep. Yeah, it was like almost 12-18 month process. But this transmission, the way we're having it rebuilt, has a clean neutral. Do they come from the factory with clean neutral?
No.
Okay.
Nope, they're a 3-speed reverse pattern.
That allows us, obviously, if you race stock, super stock, you know what that's all about, but it allows you to just put it in neutral after the run. But this shifter is designed, honestly, for the sportsman, in my mind. It has the ability to run CO2. Dennis will show us taking it off. When you buy the shifter, you can add CO2 at any time, and it's like a 5-minute process to add it. And it doesn't cost more to add it later. But with this being a super stock capable platform, it allows, you cannot run CO2 in stock Eliminator, but you can in super stock. So this will give us a little bit of functionality in addition to wanting to run our own products. So
yeah, so if you do start like in a COPO and stock Eliminator, and you move up to super stock, or even in a regular car, you can do a manual shift. And then at a later time, you can actually buy the air cylinder. We sell that separately, and you can add it to your vehicle. So it's kind of a nice feature that's easy for the customer to add or subtract as they need it.
So you can see how quick it is to, you take that panel off, you you take that little plug out right there, you poke that pin out, it drops right out, you unbolt it from the back, and then you put that plug back in. And if you buy it CO2 equipped, you can just put that off to the side for now and then add it later. One of the really cool things I'll note about our shifter is these two purple wires, I believe it's the purple wires, are a reverse indicator. So we actually have switches inside, neutral, safety, and then reverse. The reverse, if you have a sportsman style, or if you have a pro brake style valve body, you no longer have to push a button to go in reverse. You don't have to hit your trans brake button. When you put it in reverse, you can have that activate a relay, which activates your trans brake. We want you to run a relay because it will pull enough voltage to hurt that micro switch. But then you can just operate it like a regular transmission, and you don't have to try and back up with your hand on the trans brake. And then obviously the neutral safety switch. This shifter is a one-handed operation. So you want to show them just kind of how it goes, Dennis? And then pull it to go into neutral after the run. And then once you go back, once you get into the neutral spot, you actually push the handle forward. So you just kind of, instead of pulling it, you push it forward. That pushes it up to reverse and then down to park. So that way you don't have to fidget around with buttons and stuff like that, or little levers off to the side. Just trying to make it easy.
Yeah, we have a couple different mounting options for the COPO. Since it has a flat floor pan in there, we're gonna just use these little mounting feet. So they bolt on like that, and there's different positions you can use to get them kind of, you know, if you have a longer arm or something like that and you want it in a more forward position.
Yeah, you can adjust for driver. It's super modular. It's kind of how we wanted it. And we have like tube mounts and stuff, but even if you want to make your own mount, it's just 1/4 20. So it kind of gives you a lot of options for what you're doing there. But this is a rear exit clean neutral shifter, one of our more popular ones, especially in this type of racing world. So yeah, just a nice little upgrade for the old COPO. Our concept of running a dual brake kit, we don't necessarily need it for stopping, but being that this is a stock Eliminator car, we're gonna test out some theories of it, allowing it to, I guess, brake torque or flash higher on the converter by just applying more brake to the rear end. This car, remember, we can't have a trans brake, so if that works, we'll keep them. If not, we'll take a set of calipers off. But I don't know. What do you think, Dennis?
Great. Yeah, I think it'll give us more flexibility in launch. You know, more. You know, we obviously have good power management with the Holly system and stuff, so it's easier to take it away than it is to give it. You know, so this gives us the ability to give it a little bit more torque. You know, right off the hit. So yep. I'm looking forward to seeing how it works.
Yep. And one thing we noticed with the TBMs, we put them on a guy named Brian Heath's Super Stock. He runs Super Stock, right?
He's got a stock Eliminator.
Stock Eliminator, okay. So he also can't run a trans brake, and switched to TBMs and was able to, I don't even know I should give this secret away, but he was able to get about 300 or 400 RPMs more out of his launch,
yep.
Which is worth a few numbers, you know, anyways. Sure. Like I said, not all, and this isn't a bash on anybody, but a lot of 4-piston calipers don't have 4 1 3/4 pistons, which means they can't apply as much brake pressure. So instantly right off the bat, they're not going to be able to hold the car quite as strong as 4 1 3/4 pistons. Why they do that, I don't know. But thanks to the rigidity of this caliper, I think it just delivers a pretty cool option as far as not having a trans brake. So obviously we're going to run dual calipers, but I just want to compare what's going on versus what came off. So that's everything, including pads and hardware, 11.75 pounds. And then what came off of there, 13.5. So losing about 1.75 pounds per side, which is kind of cool. Actually, what's nice about that is it'll help offset the fact that we're adding a second set of calipers. So minimize the weight difference, but rotor to rotor, I'll show you that now. Rotating mass rotor, 8.4 pounds. And that's compared to, it's got bolts in it, 6.4 pounds. So you're losing about 2 pounds of rotating mass by putting that on it. The nice thing is you're not giving up a bit of performance or braking potential while doing that. This thing is definitely going to have no problem stopping. I don't suspect we'll even ever use a parachute one time in its whole life or existence, but we'll have it in case we need it. So maybe we can just like put treats or something in the parachute bag just in case we ever need them. So you can definitely tell this thing spins a lot freer now. At this point, the bearing cartridge is about all that's keeping it from spinning really, really free, but we might have a solution for that coming here shortly. We got the brakes done. Dennis got the shifter all mounted in here. We got some carpet cleaning to do. The seat's a little dirty, but making pretty good headway on this thing. Dennis, when's the first race in this thing?
End of April.
End of April.
There's a race in Indianapolis.
Race in Indy.
Yep.
Good time to debut it, right in Indy.
Before Cletus and Cars.
Oh man. Might have to let old Cleater take a rip in it down the track.
Here.
Brian's installing our 16-tooth pickup wheel on the rear end. Obviously the 4 magnet version that we pulled off, that's going to be about 4x the resolution. We've got some new 14-volt batteries going in the factory location. Another thing we did, I hate those aviation style pop-off caps, so we put our billet cap on, screw-on deal, just to make the fuel fill up a little bit easier, and then put a nice bag, inner bag style parachute. That way if we ever do have to pull it, it's a lot easier to pack. Well guys, I think that's about enough of the COPO for today. Bolted a ton of parts on this thing. We got some lines and stuff to fix up. So hopefully the next video will be us firing it up. Hopefully maybe even do a burnout in the parking lot. I don't know. For now, we're really pumped about this car and we can't wait to bring you guys more content. We'll be doing some testing with it, maybe down in Florida, and race season's coming up.